The word empower
Okay.
in the English language has its roots going back 2 or 300
Mm-hmm.
years. Okay, and so what the word really means in its origin, the origin of the word to empower, as to empower someone, suggests the idea of giving someone power. To give someone power, to empower, suggests to give someone power. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
historically, there was only one way to give someone power. Historically, we're not talking now,
Mm-hmm.
but historically.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, the idea of power was developed through authority. If you had authority, you had power. If you had a lot of money, you had power. If you had control, you had power. If you had, like, for example, if you were in charge of the military, where you could conquer nations or whatever, or you could control the people, like as a dictator, then you had power. And the only way of giving someone power was if you already have power, like a king or a prince or a nobleman or a knight or a queen, then you could give power, but you gave power based on authority and control. Authority and control was the only way to give someone power. So if you look
Mm-hmm.
up the word empower in the dictionary, you will find that definition, which is now about 300 years old. Okay, now let's consider a very interesting question. Since the meaning of the word empower has changed dramatically, even over the last 30 to 40 years, why haven't the dictionaries in all languages around the world, why haven't the dictionaries changed and given a new modern meaning of the word? Why? You tell me what. You already know the answer to that. What's the reason? What's the reason? Tell me the
To be
reason
hon-
why they haven't updated the definition of the word.
no, to be honest, I don't have any idea. Please
Well,
enlighten me.
it's
I
it's
need your
actually
enlightenment.
it's actually very, very simple, Jane. It's super simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's that the people who have power, as in authority and control, do not want anybody to know that there is another way to get power. They want to maintain their power. They're not going to give you a definition of the word that will allow you, as an average person, to have power, right? They don't want that.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Now, what is let's take one specific sector of society, which is the church. Okay. The church
Mm-hmm.
is a very useful sector, the religion. How
Mm-hmm.
do leaders in the church, or in any church, it doesn't matter what religion, I don't care what the religion is,
Uh-huh.
what do the leaders in a church, how do they exercise power and authority? There's one very simple, consistent way of having control and power in the church or any religion. What is that? You already know the answer to that. If you don't, I'll remind you.
Introducing
What was that?
introducing introducing God, introducing the word of God,
Well,
introducing.
yes, but where, how are they maintaining their power? They maintain the power through controlling your beliefs, by controlling your beliefs, right? So if they have control over your beliefs, they have control over you, right? Because you are your beliefs and everything you believe. Okay. Now, a bit of historical lesson. During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church started to realize that the people were some of the people were veering off from the church teachings, and they were getting their own answers to their own spiritual questions on their own through things like astrology and tarot cards and mystical practices. They were freaked. They were totally freaked out because they were worried that they were losing control of the people's beliefs, that people would then become free to believe whatever they chose to believe, and then they would no longer have control over the masses, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so in 1547 or whatever, 1623 or 1741, they continued to do what is commonly called today a smear campaign, a public relations smear campaign, but it was vicious. In the Middle Ages, it was vicious. So they said if you're caught doing astrology or tarot or any of these devil worship, they label them as devil and worship and evil.
Mm-hmm.
And they, well, that if you will chop your head off, we'll chop your head off. We'll put you in prison for life. So then they instilled such fear. They instilled such fear in the people to not follow these other various forms of knowledge or these, the esoteric teachings or knowledge or spiritual practices or whatever, they resorted to fear. So indoctrination and fear was the method by which they controlled the beliefs of the people. Okay. You get the idea? To
Oh,
control somebody's
yes.
belief, to control them. Okay. All right. Well, guess what? That smear campaign, that PR smear campaign that started in 1543 or 1682 or whenever it was, it's still going on today. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's the same smear campaign. And that's why you go on Facebook and you ask people about astrology. They said the church told me not to do that because it's evil. The church, right?
Mm.
Okay, but now let's look at another little piece of history. Sir Isaac
Yes. Can you
Newton,
give me?
yeah,
Yes. I mean, I will get. I will just get a ball pen very quick, because
okay.
I can't write. The ink
You
is
you don't
very.
need, but you don't need to write because we're recording.
I'm here.
Because we're recording this, so you can take any of this off the recording, right?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So if you go on Facebook and you do a survey, you'll find a lot of people will say, well, I can't do astrology because the church forbids it, or the church told me or taught me, or my pastor or my priest, whatever, taught me that it's evil and the devil worship, and I can't do it. Right. And this is ingrained through generation after generation after generation. Okay, you get the idea? Okay. Control the beliefs of the people. Now, governments do the same thing regarding 100 other different things like money. We've talked forever about beliefs regarding money. If you tell a, one generation after the next, centuries upon centuries upon centuries, certain things about money, and you get the people to believe it, and then you have their children believe it, and then their grandchildren believe it, et cetera, then it just
Yeah.
becomes the norm of what is believed and is completely nonsense,
Mm.
completely, utterly ridiculous
Yes.
true. Okay. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. So when we come back to the word empower, so now let's come back to that word. Okay. So the concept that you can only give someone power through authority. What is authority? Where is or historically? Where does authority come from? Authority doesn't come from the will of the people. Historically, authority comes from might and power. In other words, if I have a bigger army than you, if I have bigger guns than you,
Mhm.
if I can exercise greater force than you, then I have greater power. I have greater power and greater control. Okay. Okay. So now we
Mhm.
fast forward to
Yes.
the latter part of the 20th century and all the way into the 21st century, and some new wrinkles come into the equation. There's some new things. What is that? Well, we have a spiritual awakening. So there's an awakening in the masses, more and more and more. Each year that goes by, there is this awakening. Well, what is the awakening? The awakening is that actually, me as an individual, no one gives me power or takes away my power. My power is mine and it's in me, and no one outside of me controls that. Okay. They can do all of their little whatever trips and shenanigans and whatever, but my power is mine. Okay. So now we come back to life crafting definition of empower. So now I'm going to give you our definition of empower, which will blow your mind. And now you'll begin to understand what life crafting really is. You ready? Are you ready?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
now
ready.
here's the definition. I'm going to say it a couple of times very slowly because I developed this
Mm,
definition
please.
actually many years ago, probably about 20, I would estimate about 20 or 30 years ago. I came up with this definition and I've been teaching this definition forever since that time. And I want you to be able to use this definition in many places, like you can use it in Facebook conversations, quotes, comments, etc. conversations. You can use it in with all of your, again, you can use it with Anna, you can teach it to Anna, you can give it to her, etc., etc. It's going to come up in a lot of different places, and it also is relevant to what happened with Justin, because Justin was, one of our engagement team members. He's a really cool guy. I think his name is De Leon, Justin De Leon. And he interacted with me on the Facebook group about Astrodyne
Yes,
just
yes.
recently. And I sent him a couple of things about, okay, so here goes. Here goes. Okay. To empower someone means to be a catalyst for them, a catalyst to spark or ignite their own existing power so that they can be, do, or have whatever they choose in their life. Let me say that again. To empower means to spark or ignite as a catalyst the already existing power in another so that they can be, do, or have whatever they choose to do in their life. Okay. So let's use a concrete example here and you'll understand the practical application of the definition. You ready?
Yes,
Ready?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's say
Word. Yes, please.
Let's say, for
Yes.
example, you and I are having a conversation and you feel limited in some way. It doesn't matter what it is. You feel somewhere you feel limited, maybe with money, maybe with career, maybe with family. It doesn't matter what it is. You feel limited some way. And I act as a catalyst for you. I
Mhm.
ask you questions or I make suggestions. I'm not giving you anything. I'm being a catalyst for you in
Mhm.
your presence. Okay. So there's a metaphysical and energetic dynamic that goes on in this sort of interaction. What it really is that the part of you, like, the spiritual essence or core of you recognizes, it sees and recognizes that I'm vibrationally in a power, in a place of assuming power within me. And it recognizes that and it says, oh, wow, he's plugged into this power in this area. I can do that too. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to plug my power cord into that socket in the wall where I can get the same power that Howard has. It's a decision you make based on what you observe
Oh.
and feel that I'm doing. I'm not doing anything. I'm being me, holding the space of power because I've already given myself that power. Your being on an unconscious level recognizes that you have that same ability to do that and you plug into that power. And now all of a sudden you go, wow, Howard, I just realized I can do that too. I can be in that same power that you have. I didn't do anything to you or for you. You did it all. But it was the catalyst. I acted as a catalyst for you to awaken to that possibility. Just like yesterday when we were talking about the mind, the tug of war going on in your mind all day long.
Yes,
You know, that
yes,
he's
yes.
struggling. And then all I
Mm-hmm.
did is say to you, well, you know, you can change the mental chatter, the mind chatter conversation. And in that moment, when you heard me say that, you said, wow, that would be so amazing if I could change this constant tug of war that goes on inside me all day long. So all that happened in that moment was a recognition of a possibility. That's all. That's all I did was show you a possibility, and you said, "Oh my God, yes, there's that possibility. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to do it, but Howard is showing me that there's this new possibility, and he's
Yeah.
pointing it out to me." And then you realize, well, if he knows how to do that, then I can learn that too. That's an example of empowerment. It's not giving someone power, it's them recognizing that they have that same ability or that same access to power.
Okay.
Okay, so now when we use the word transformation, which you've heard people use a lot, not just me, but many people use the word transformation. That I had a transformational experience when I met my teacher in India. I went to India and I met my spiritual teacher, and we didn't speak. He just sat very quietly and peacefully. And I sat with him. And as I was sitting with him, I could feel his incredible awareness and his incredible love. And I walked away from that experience completely transformed because I now could feel in my soul that I could be that and I could assume that same thing as him or her. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a transformation, but it doesn't involve doing anything. It's about being, not doing anything. Okay. Okay. You get the idea? Okay.
Yeah.
So now
Yes.
we also have the reverse, the sort of opposite
Mm-hmm.
or reverse of this, which could be the word disempower. You can empower or you can disempower. Okay. So let's look at an example of disempower. Okay. So let's look at a boy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give an example of a boy who's 8 years old, and he adores his dad. He
Mm-hmm.
just adores his father. You know how little boys can adore their dad and know how much their dad loves them and how their dad will do anything for them. Okay. Now the man who's the father of the child is very, very sincere and very, very loving. And he wants to be the best possible parent that the boy could ever have. Unfortunately, though, the man has had a hard life. He's struggling. He's had a hard life.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't think life is easy. He thinks life is hard. And he doesn't want to give his son an unrealistic idea about life because he feels that would hurt his child. He wants to be honest with
Mm-hmm.
his son, right? So he says, son, life is hard. Life is hard. Life is hard. You just have to make the best of it. Life is hard. So when the boy is 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, all he ever hears from his dad is life is hard,
Life is
life is hard,
hard.
life. So after a period of years, what has happened to this boy is he doesn't hear in his head or even remember his dad saying to him, life is hard. It's already programmed into him. It's programmed, right? At a
Yeah.
subconscious level. So now we fast forward to age 40. So now this boy is now 40. He's grown up, he's a man, he's 40, and he's struggling
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And he has no idea why. He's doing the best he can,
Yeah.
but it is a belief that's operating. Okay, so this is an example of disempowerment. It's an example of a loving dad, a caring, kind, loving dad that wants the best for his son, but unfortunately, because of his limiting beliefs, because of his life, of his patterns emotionally, etc., unfortunately imparts this limiting belief. So that becomes a form of disempowerment. And he doesn't know it, and he didn't mean to do anything harmful, but he didn't have a level of awareness at that particular time where he could recognize that he was doing something harmful, right?
Yeah.
Now, this man who's now 40, if you have somebody sees him and understands the dynamic of beliefs and understand how consciousness and beliefs, define everything. And if he comes over and he grabs him by the shoulders and just says, "You have a limiting belief, wake up." You have a, then
Yeah.
maybe there's a hope that this 40-year-old man will say, oh my God, how do I change this? How do I change it? Right. But what are the chances of that happening? Like 1/1,000,000th of 1%, right? Because we don't have a society of people who are aware of these things to go over this, right? But the truth is that it exists. It exists not just in life crafting, but I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of transformational coaches and teachers all over the world who understand this, what I'm telling you, who are in their own way, in their own unique way, are doing this kind of work, helping people awaken to
Hmm.
what's true inside them. And if you're an astrologer, well, then you have another really fantastic tool because you can see the programming and you can see all the solutions and how all the shifts. So if I look at somebody's birth charts and I see the life lessons that that person is going through and what they're here to learn, then of course I have the inside track to be able to empower, is that word again, to empower the
Hmm.
individual to awaken to that journey, that spiritual path and journey, and break free from those beliefs, from those limiting patterns. But if I don't know that or see that or communicate that in an effective way, that person's just going to go forward and keep doing exactly what they always do. Just like in physics, Newton's first law of physics, an
Yeah.
object at rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to continue in motion in the same velocity and direction unless acted upon by an outside force. Newton's law of motion, right? Newton's, which is the same for people, as the people's law of motion. Okay, right. So what? Let's make a comparison here. Go back to empower. What are some contrasts to empower? Because there's many different ways people relate to each other. So there, there are two other kinds of ways in which human beings interact. One is what we commonly refer to as helping. Word help, to help someone.
Okay.
Now, is help the same as empower? No, it's not. It's a completely different thing. So
Hmm.
let's say you're moving to a new home. You're moving from where you live now
Hmm.
to another home, and you're loading your truck. You packed all your belongings in boxes, and you're filling the truck up with the boxes, right? And I come along and say, "Oh, wow, you're moving. I'll help you move the boxes." That's helping. That's a
Yes.
wonderful thing to help you get the boxes onto the truck, right?
Yes.
Not empowerment, it's just helping. You see what I mean? It's a entirely different thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about saving and rescuing. So saving and rescuing. So if you're drowning in the ocean or you're drowning in the swimming pool, and I throw a rope to you, or I have a boat and I come up with a boat and I pull you into the boat, that's rescue, or some people call it
Maybe.
saving or rescuing. That's wonderful. That's great. We need people to rescue. It's not empowerment. It's not the same thing. Do you see the difference? So we have
Yes.
rescuing or saving and helping and empowering, and they're all different. Okay.
Hmm.
So in life crafting, we respect and appreciate helping and rescuing and saving, but it's not where we focus. It's not where we focus. We focus on empowerment. Why? Why do we do that? Because the mission of life crafting is to enable a human being to recognize that they have everything inside them already. They don't need anything. They just need to know how to access that wisdom or that power or that ability. And regarding power, where do people get power from? Always the same thing, from God or source. We all get from the same place.
Yeah.
And how are astrodites a form of empowerment? How they're in a profound example of empowerment. Because before astrodites, a person thinks that they can't speak to God. God will never talk with them, will never listen, and will never respond to them. But what a most ludicrous, insane belief to live your whole life thinking that you can never talk to God, you can never get answers to your prayers, your questions, whatever. And then suddenly you learn Astrodice. Like, and I just said this to Justin in the
Mm-hmm.
Facebook group. And now all of a sudden you realize this was a lie. I was told a lie by the church. I was told a lie by my parents, my teachers, maybe in a well-meaning type of way, maybe in a caring way, but it was a lie. I was taught that I can't speak to God. I can't, God won't listen and God won't respond and God won't be my buddy. I just want a buddy. I just want somebody to be a buddy. God doesn't have to be wise person who has infinite wisdom. God can be
Yeah,
just your best friend buddy. If that's what you
exactly.
want, you can get that. You see what I mean? So the
Mm-hmm.
paradigm shift that occurs with Astrodice is profoundly empowering because it opens a doorway into this realization of the entire lie of thousands of years of religion teaching you that you can't speak to God and you can't get God to respond to you. What a totally mind-blowing change, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the reason that I do Astrodice. It's not, I mean, yes, there's the
Mm.
interim value of getting answers to people's immediate questions like of today. Well, of course, but there's the bigger goal, the larger goal, right? Of having people realize that they are universally connected 24/7, every single minute of every single day. God is with you. God or spirit is with you and loves you unconditionally with total compassion. But they're not going to save or rescue you. They want you to do it for yourself,
Yeah.
just like any good spiritual teacher or basketball coach will do the same. Your basketball coach is not going to do the play for you on the court. He's going to tell you how to do the play, how to shoot the basket, how to shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure that out. God's the same. He's not going to come
Exactly.
down on the basketball court to run the ball for you. He wants you to do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so you see, these are examples of empowerment. So when we tell people about what life crafting is, where you can see now why this idea of empowerment is the centerpiece to everything we do. And once
Mm-hmm.
people understand this, then all of the programs and everything we do, no matter what level, or it's all it makes sense. Everything makes sense once you have this foundation. Okay.